Hello everybody, my name is Isaac and welcome back to another episode of the Practice Room, where today we'll be looking at the Black Swamp Multisonic 5x14 7-ply maple concert black snare drum. Let's dive into it. Alright, huge disclaimer before we get into this video. I am not a Black Swamp endorser or artist or sponsor of whatever they do. I am not sponsored by any other percussion brand. This is my honest thoughts about the snare drum because I want to give out quality reviews to you guys. So here we go. This is my unbiased review of Black Swamp snare drum. So in the last episode, I learned a De La Cruz Etude in 1 hour, and you guys seem to really enjoy it. So I decided to actually make a review on the drum I actually played on for that video. So why did I choose a Black Swamp snare drum over something like a Pearl Philharmonic or a Majestic Prophonic? Well, there's a couple reasons why. First, I'm really used to playing Black Swamp snare drums at my high school because that's the main snare drum we use for our concert band setting and also our solo usage. So I was used to the feel, I was used to the sound and texture that the drum can provide to the ensemble and solo purposes. Two is I am very used to the sound and characteristics of a Black Swamp snare drum, and because they have the multi-sonic system, they have 5 individual snares that you can turn on and off. But first, let's talk about the size. I opted for a 5x14 shell, which is 5 inches in depth and then 14 inches of diameter across the drum. So this is usually your typical concert drum size drum. Some people might get bigger sizes like a 6.5 by 14, or smaller sizes like a piccolo, which is a 4x14, or sometimes 3.5 by 13. It really depends on the circumstances. I chose this size because I wanted the most versatile size for not only solo playing, but I can also use it for ensemble setting or some chamber settings if applicable. So if you're looking for a first time snare drum, I would consider doing the 5x14 size because it's the most versatile. Let's move on to shell type. So the shell material is actually ply wood, so ply maple wood. I think what they do is they have these machines and they cut very thin sheets of veneer wood and then shape it into a snare drum size, which is a circle usually. And then they stack it on top of each other and glue it together to make what they call a ply wood. So a 7-ply wood means, or 7-ply maple means that there's 7 plies or 7 rings around the drum that make the shape, body, structure, and then they're glued together to make one single shell. This is very different than your metal shells like copper or brass or titanium or aluminum that many of other brands use. I chose maple because of the warm sounding, the roundness of the sound, also the complexity in the texture and the character of the drum is more prevalent in the maple shells than let's say their brass or any other metal drums they sell. So the maple shell will just do just fine. And I also like to keep in consideration the price factor. Maple is the cheapest shell they sell. There are other shells, which is titanium, then brass, then unibody. But maple is the cheapest option out of those 4 options that they sell. So yeah, save some money, get the maple shell. Now let's go into the multi-sonic system. This is my favorite part of this drum, is the individual snares that you can adjust, you can tune, and you can engage and disengage all simultaneously. It's a very cool feature. I think that a lot of other drum brands need to start incorporating with their concert drums, but Black Swamp I think does it the best out of what I've seen online. So let's dive into that system. So as you can see, I'll bring the drum up. You can see the 5 individual snares here. There is a 8-coated blue here. There is a 6-strand stainless here. There's a wire wound, which is I think made out of like guitar cable. There is a 8-strand stainless, and then there's a 6-strand coated gold-coated cable. The thing about these snares is that you can individually adjust them to however you want them. You can engage and disengage them through this strainer, multi-sonic strainer, which is right here. Basically, all you have to do is when you actually turn the system off, you can adjust whichever ones you want and then they would turn on. If you're wondering that if Black Swamp actually offers different snare options for their snare drums, they do. The Multisonic is their most advanced system. They have the Sound Art, which is 3 snares. They have their Pro 10 Studio, which is a progressive tension of 3 snares in one cable unit, if that makes sense. Basically, there's 3 snares aligned, and then they have one straining system for all of those 3. So it's a single throw off, but it's still a really good system. And then they have their concert maple options for lots of those bigger ensembles or just a smaller high school or middle school band program that needs a good concert snare drum. And you might be asking, what's the difference between this throw off and like a normal concert snare drum? Right here is my Ludwig Acrolite from, I think this is a really old drum, but as you can see, I swapped the original snares with these Black Swamp snare drums, these cable type, and as you can see, this is a single throw off compared to the Multisonic, which has 5 individual snares. So usually if you go to like a high school band setting and they just have a single throw off with just a single tuner for the snares, you usually find something like this. Some other key features to take in mind are the die-cast hoops. I really like how they use die-cast hoops for the Multisonic and Sound Art systems. The die-cast hoops help keep the drum in tune for longer, and they also have a more pointed character than rather this drum. So as you can see, this is what they call the stock hoops, or I think it's stock, standard hoops. As you can see, the hoops on this are a little bit different. Right here, these arch over the tension rods, while this one just has a single point of contact through the tension rods into the lug. Some other things I like about this drum is the arch lugs. It's a really cool design, looks really sleek, looks kind of modern. And also the fact that they use Remo Renaissance heads. Yes, these are probably my favorite types of heads for concert orchestral percussion. This is the stock, this is the actual head that it came on. Still has the original head, and it still works really well for a lot of circumstances. Okay, I've done a lot of talking. Let's actually hear what the drum sounds like at all dynamic levels. All right, so we're gonna do the sound test now. This is with the snares off, and I am using the CL1Ls Chris Lamb's orchestral sticks from Innovative Percussion. These are also the ones I used for the Daily Etude and last video, so here we go. Now I have the snares on. This is the general purpose setting they suggest, which includes the 8 blue coated, the 5 wire wound, and then the 8 strand stainless. Alright, now I have what they call the loud setting, which includes the 8 blue coated and then the 6 coated gold. Last but not least, we have what they call the quiet setting, which includes the 6 strand stainless, the 5 wire wound, and then the 8 strand stainless. wrap up with my honest thoughts about this drum. I think the pros for this snare drum is the customization and versatility of this drum. Basically, with the multisonic system and the 5x14 shell, makes it a very versatile use for both the solo and ensemble settings. I think another pro is the ease of the strainer system. I think the ease of the multisonic system is really user-friendly for any application and is really fun and easy to use at any time. I think some of my critiques and like issues with this drum sometimes is, and this is really personal preference, but just always having that wet sound out of Black Swamp snare drums. Again, I'm used to the wet sound and the projection that Black Swamp offers than like Pearl, Majestic, and I really appreciate about Black Swamp snare drums. But some other people might not like this sound of like being so wet and also so resonant versus like a Pearl drum, which is usually a lot drier, a lot more clear, articulate. But I usually like the wet sound out of their drums because it projects a lot more and it's more applicable for solo applications, but also ensemble applications if you need to project out a lot more. I think another con is that it's on the pricier side. If you look on Streetwise, I think like you can get a good Pearl Philharmonic for, I don't know, $800, while these cost about $1,000 each. So keep that in mind when you're buying your first concert snare drum, is the price. But if you don't mind the extra price and also the way it sounds, I would really recommend the Multisonic system. Again, this is just my honest review on this snare drum. I really like this snare drum. It's been one of my favorites for a long time now. Well, that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, you can go find Black Swamp's information on their website and learn more about their drums, and they probably do a better explanation than what I did today. But these were all my honest thoughts about this snare drum. Again, I'm not endorsed or sponsored by Black Swamp Percussion or any other percussion brand. This is my honest review on the snare drum. Anyways, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.